Just using the second week, 20% died of the flu and then 80% died of pneumonia. So essentially, the flu is the jab, right, that stuns you, and then pneumonia is the uppercut that knocks you out. "23 more deaths have been reported by the South Carolina Department of Health and Environmental Control. 23 more deaths. This flu season, a total of 151 influenza-associated deaths reported by the DHEC, which said that South Carolina reported widespread activity this week. This is the 10th consecutive week at widespread activity. Where is the flu at? Where is this H3N2 flu hidden in the United States? Oh, everywhere. It's widespread. So it's further in to tighten its grip on the U.S. This is the South Carolina numbers, and I'm going to tell you the U.S. CDC numbers here in a second. This season is now as bad as the swine flu epidemic that happened 9 years ago. The swine flu pandemic of 2009 killed up to 203,000 people worldwide. Before the government report, the CDC, shows come out on Friday, 1 of every 13 visits to the doctor last week was for fever, cough, or other symptoms of the flu. And that ties the highest level seen in the U.S. during swine flu in 2009. So we're seeing the same rates, we're seeing the same numbers, and even the CDC numbers are is ridiculous. They got a threshold, and we've been crossing the threshold week after week. AIDS came to America in 1980. 1980 is when AIDS showed its head, and Ronald Reagan didn't do shit about it. Ronald Reagan didn't care. His base was against the gays, and so this disease that was perfect for his base. He didn't say a goddamn thing about AIDS until 5 years later in 1985, after he already killed 5,000 gay folks. But his conservative base didn't care about it, so for 5 years, Ronald Reagan ignored AIDS. For 5 years. Yeah, what a great... In 1980, nobody gave a shit about AIDS killing people. Are the Republicans going to give a shit about the H3N2 pandemic? I mean, they're the ones that don't give a shit about health care. They don't care about universal health care. They don't care about the lives of the American people. So they might actually love this shit, right? Who's going to die of this flu? Poor kids and old people. And that's what it's targeting mostly. Old people and, kids, children. Those are the high risk. I mean, they're weaker than everybody else. There's a couple middle-aged, strong, healthy people dying of this, but mostly it's kids and elderly folks. So I actually wanted you to take a look at this lady. This is a nurse, and she talks about what you could do to prevent the flu. So check her out.
Good morning, everybody. This is Kat Locklear. Just got off of a 12-hour night shift. Very tired, but I can act perky for this video for just a few minutes. So we are in the middle of something called flu season. I'm sure you all are very aware of what that is. But it is a really terrible flu season. And if you're not aware of how the flu is spread, the only way you can get it is through your eyes, your nose, or your mouth. That means you touch something and you rub your eye, you could get the flu. Let's see, if someone coughs near you and then you inhale it through your nose or through your mouth, you could get the flu. So it is really bad. It's killed some people. It has put many people in the hospital, and it's spreading like wildfire. I don't know if I mentioned already, but it's been a long night shift. But yeah, like 1 in every 8 people is testing positive for this flu. So here are some thoughts, if you don't mind me sharing, okay? These are true life experiences. I'll change the names and the topic of it, so to protect the not so innocent.
Now, how long are you really contagious with the flu? It takes about 7 days after you're over it. You still can... had talked about how you can get the flu through your eyes, your nose, or your mouth. So your 4 holes in your face, your 4 face holes. I guess maybe not through your ear. I mean, I don't know. But she said through your eyes, your nose, and your mouth. And what happens is you spread the virus by coughing. That's what happens when you sneeze, when you cough. That all that mucus, all that stuff is trapping it, so they can't infect other cells. But when you sneeze, it's sending those droplets, those little tiny respiratory droplets, right? Just water vapor, kind of water vapor with the virus on top of it. So that's how the flu is spread. When those virus-containing droplets come out of the sick person's mouth, and then the other people breathe it.
If you have a team member from your softball team who is sick or injured, you do not bring the entire softball team in to check on them. Because guess what? You just got maybe 15 new vectors or carriers of the flu by them all walking in, which I watched them each walk in last night, see their friend, and not touch the hand sanitizer not once. And there is the flu. It is a cesspool of flu, a cesspool of funky flu at the ER right now.
You cough, when a sick person coughs, tiny droplets fly from their mouth, can travel as far as 20 feet at speeds ranging from 25 to 50 miles per hour. I've been hit. Sometimes they can stay suspended for hours. So if someone inhales those particles, they become infected. The flu can be transmitted if somebody touches a surface contaminated with the flu and then touches her face or mouth. That's why hand washing is so important when you're sick. And one of the best ways to prevent spreading the flu, just stay home if you can. So get hand sanitizer, drink Gatorade, get those electrolytes in you. Electrolytes are those minerals or chemicals that create electricity. Your body is full of electricity, so Gatorade is better than water. Drink water. If you don't have Gatorade, get plenty of soup, lots of sleep, wash your stinking hands. She's right about that. And, 6 feet away, wear a mask.
So, please don't bring your team in. Please don't bring your healthy children, especially your newborn babies, into the emergency room. And if you don't have what I call a true emergency, this would not be the time to come to the emergency room. So, right now we have up to 25 to 30 patients sitting for hours in the emergency room waiting room. Some of them are not true emergencies, but they're waiting along with the flu right next to them. So guess what? 5 flus came in, 15 flus walk out.
Talk some numbers here. The CDC just came out with their brand new, the last week of January, so they haven't said anything about February, but we have 4 weeks in 2018, and then we have, all 2017, all 52 weeks. They have 4 or 6 columns, and the first column is the percentages of deaths due to the flu or pneumonia. So they're putting pneumonia in with it because it's possible that person caught the flu and then got pneumonia. And both of these people are dying of the flu and pneumonia. This is, 2018. We're the most advanced country in the world. I don't know. I mean, they expect a certain amount, but the rates are getting higher and higher. So the first column is the percentage of total deaths, and then the other one is the average, what is expected. And then the next one is a threshold. If it goes above this line,
it's great. And guess what? Half of them don't realize they have the flu yet. They'll be back. So the flu, we have a medication called Tamiflu, and it's pretty helpful to shrink the length of the life of the flu. So flu can last from 7 to 10 days, maybe a little bit longer. So Tamiflu does not cure you like an antibiotic, but it will shrink the length of time that you have the flu. So if you were supposed to have it for 10 days, you might have it for 6 days.
For week 48, it says that out of the total deaths, which it has right here, the total amount of people, Americans that died, the 48th week of 2017 was 51,550. That's how many people had died total. Now, the percentage of flu and pneumonia deaths was 6.48. Now, the average is 6.43, so it's just 0.05 higher. and then the threshold is 6.74313. So it's actually lower than the threshold. So it's on par. It's on pace. It's the average. It's nothing to be alarmed about. The same goes for week 49 and week 50. Now, when you get to week 51, that's when shit begins to change. 7.2 is the percentage of deaths of flu and pneumonia out of all the total ill-related deaths, and the threshold is 7.0. So 7.2 is above 7.0. It's above the threshold. And how?
Well, here are some ideas to how to treat the flu at home. Wash your stinking hands so you don't get all your baby sick. Treat your fever with Tylenol or Motrin. If you are an adult, you can take more than 200 milligrams of Motrin. You can actually take 400 to 600. And if you're a big dude in pain, you can take maybe 800.
.2 above the threshold. So is it an epidemic? Is it a pandemic? Who knows, right? It's the second week of the end of 2017. Maybe there's nothing to see here. And then the 52nd week, it's 8.1. The threshold is 7.1. It's a full percentage point over it now. 53,077 people died. Americans died of ill-related deaths, and 3,758 of them was pneumonia, and then 583 was the flu. So the flu took 583 American lives, but pneumonia took 3,758. So combine those two, the percentage of the total deaths, 53,000, is 7.2, 8.1. This is the final 2 weeks of 2017. Okay? So it looks to me, just a general ballpark number, about a quarter of the people die of the flu, and then the rest of them are. Bring in the new year. Now it's January 1st. The first week of January, 55,728 Americans died of some kind of illness. 4,243 died of pneumonia. 1,029 died of the common flu. 1,029 Americans died of the common flu. 4,243 died of pneumonia. Put those together, that's 5,000. And the number I saw was 4,000 in 1 week. There was more than 4,000 deaths of the flu in 1 week, and so that's 5,000, right? And then the next week is 4,449 is going to die of pneumonia. 1,251 is going to die of the flu. Again, that's more than 4,000. That's actually 5,700. And then in the third week was 3,922 died of the to the threshold. The last week of 2017, the threshold was 7.1. We're not going to accept anybody dying more than 7.1% of the total. 8.2% died. And so, therefore, it's already beaten the threshold. The first week is 7.1. That's the only thing we're going to accept. It's 9.5. Now it's over 2.5 points. Then we're only going to accept 7.24. We're not going to go over, if there is more flu-related deaths than 7.24, we're going to call a pandemic. Guess what the percentage was in week 2? 10.3%. That's 3% more. Then 7.29 is what we accepted in the third week, 10.4. 3 points, again, too much. And then the fourth week was 7.3 is all we're going to accept, 9.84. This is 6 weeks in a row that we have beaten the threshold. This is a pandemic. Last 6 weeks, it's been increasing and getting more and more Americans are dying. And so all I did was, combined all the 6 weeks, divided them by 6, and then multiplied it by 52 to get the average. If we stay on task, if we stay on the pace that we're on now, so far we've had 24,681 deaths. Divide that up, multiply it by 52. The average is 4,113.5 deaths every week. That is more than 9/11. 9/11 killed 3,000 American citizens. This flu outbreak is killing over 4,000. 4,113.5 Americans are dying of the flu because we don't have paid universal health care. We don't have paid sick leave. Stay the fuck home. You're sick, Don't go to work. Don't cough on the burgers. Don't cough on each other. Students, stay home. I mean, the kids, all those germs, stay home. Oh my God. We mentioned is the percentage of flu deaths versus pneumonia. How many people have died strictly from the flu? Let's go from the 4th week of January and go backwards. So 857 people died that week of just the flu. 1,179 died in the 3rd week. 1,251 died in the 2nd week. That's how many Americans died, over 1,200 Americans just of the flu. And then 1,029 the 1st week, 583, 329, 149, 114, 78, 48, 47. That sounds better, right? 15 people dying of the flu, but 1,251 people dying of the flu, and that's just the flu. So if you just take the 2nd week, that's 1,251, 1,251 versus 4,449. So that's 20%. So about 20% of those who have the flu die of the flu, and then the other 80% die of pneumonia. Just using the 2nd week, 20% died of the flu, and then 80% died of pneumonia. So essentially, the flu is the jab, right, that stuns you, and then pneumonia is the uppercut that knocks you out, that kills you. And this is, like I said, 9/11. There are more people dying, and more Americans who are dying, and it's more, the average. This isn't just every season people die of the flu, but people are dying of the flu at an insane rate for the last 6 weeks that we have, and that's just the end of January. So we don't even know what's going on with February. But there was the CDC map that had essentially documented the cases all throughout the United States. And I would recommend, here it is. So actually take a look at it. And when you look at this thing, just notice brown is widespread. So when it gets to brown, that's when it's at its absolute worst. So here it is. Right now, they're doing the weeks. So I went back from the 40 week. This is 2017. You got some yellow. You got some brown. That's local activity and regional activity. What you want to look for is, Louisiana and Oklahoma. Now you got Georgia. Now you got Virginia. Now you got New York, California. Okay, now we got it all over the place. This is beginning of 2018. It's widespread all over the place. Only District of Columbia and Hawaii and Guam and then Oregon for 1 week. That's the only place is U.S. Virgin Islands. It's the only place where you'll be safe away from this pandemic. In Oregon, Guam, Hawaii, I'm not for sure what they're doing in all those states. And the U.S. Virgin Islands, I'm assuming that Guam, Hawaii, and the U.S. Virgin Islands, just by benefit of being away from the United States, is the reason why they're not getting afflicted with this. But everywhere in the United States, except for Oregon. Saw the article, and it was just one little sentence, essentially, but it was over 4,000 deaths. Over 4,000 Americans have died in 1 week. That was Fortune.com. And it just said there's 40,000 deaths in the U.S. in the 3rd week, the most recent data available, and 4,000 of them had died from pneumonia or influenza. And so I just took that number and multiplied it out, and I was like, God, that's more than 200,000. Now I did more, number crunching. So with the 6 weeks, the 4 weeks of January, and then the 2 last weeks of 2017, I got an average of 4,113 and a half Americans are dying every week. Multiply that by 52, that's 213 and 902. And how many people died of the swine flu was 200,000, not 200, it's less. It was less than 213. I think it was 209,000. The swine flu killed in 2009 and 2009, the so-called swine flu, which is actually, I'll get into that in a minute, but the swine flu killed 203,000 human beings all across the world. So they're saying, wait, that wasn't really a pandemic. That was, around the world, 203,000. We're on pace right now for over 213,000 Americans. Just Americans, not worldwide, just Americans. It's like a war city in major cities. They're talking about tents in the street in California. State of emergency has been declared in Alabama. There's flu drives at the hospitals. It looks like war zone conditions. Boston is using Gatorade to plug shortage of IV drips. They don't have it. They're running out of IV drips. Hospitals in Southern California have set up emergency tents in their parking lot to treat the influx of flu patients. You know, it's a war zone. The state has been hit. Hospitals that are treating patients in the hallways are canceling surgeries or turning away patients. Don't take your kid, like she said, don't take your kids to the emergency room. Pharmacies nationwide are running out of flu medications. There's a shortage of IV bags due to Hurricane Maria, and the flu is devastating at least 49 states. Alabama has declared a state of emergency. So we got to follow Alabama's lead. Of course, Alabama, they have bad drinking water. They have no health care. The flu is going to spread all over the place. Hell, in Alabama, they probably say cough on each other. That's probably the best way to solve the thing. Just go coughing on people. The more people you cough on, the more it kills the flu. So hospitals in Texas and Minnesota are turning patients away. Boston hospitals are pumping Gatorade through stomach tubes because they don't have the IV drips. This is going to be the worst flu in recent history. This is going to be worse than the swine flu. So in the 2000s, we are seeing a pandemic right now in the 2000s.
Just depends on your weight. But a regular-sized adult, 400 to 600 is a perfectly appropriate dose of ibuprofen. Tylenol, please don't come in and say I have a fever and I had one Tylenol and didn't do nothing. Well, of course it didn't. You need to take 650 to maybe even a gram, which is 1,000 milligrams of Tylenol, sometimes if you're a big person, to kill that fever, okay? You need to drink some Gatorade, okay? Or some water, or some Powerade, I don't care.
Particularly dangerous strain is called H3N2. It's come relatively early and is expected to last until May. Health officials are urging everyone to get their flu shot. Say it's not too late to protect yourself from the virus. More strains of the virus will emerge in the next 2 months, along with the already widespread H3N2 strain dubbed the Aussie flu. Okay, so this is the Aussie flu. This is what killed hundreds of people in 2014, according to the CDC. So H3N2, this is the strain, that we have to fight against. The fever is a good thing, right? It's fighting. All that mucus is fighting. But you could cough up to, 20 feet? And it could stay on something and it stay there for hours, and then it's with your hands and you touch in your eyes, nose, and mouth. So the gas, those gas masks the Chinese always wear, those doctor's masks, it makes sense now. Who knows,
Hydrate yourself, get the fever down, wash your stinking hands, and cover your nose. Watch this. I'm going to teach y'all a magic trick. It's amazing. Achoo! Let me repeat it in slow motion. Achoo!
Aussie flu, I think Australian flu is fine. So the Australian flu is killing lots of Americans. So the H3N2, and there's lots of these strains. The swine flu was H1N1. And so that's like the main one, but they have a whole bunch of these. In China, they just found a mutated H7N4 bird flu. So, that's 74, right? So that's there's 74 different of these damn flus that's floating around. Bioterrorism is, maybe that's why China's freaking out in case there was a depopulation and they just, spread a bunch of cyanide out into the night sky. You won't, you won't die from that. I guess I'll just end it off on, I'll talk about those strains later on. We can get into the details, but essentially, they're common flus. And they're mutations, but there's always mutations. The vaccines are working. 60% of the kids who get the vaccine do not get the flu. 30% of adults.
My sleeve got the germs. My hands didn't, because it's amazing to watch how many people come through the emergency room, sneeze in their hand, and I watch. No one grabs the hand sanitizer that's only every 3 feet in the ER. So, this is mighty tricky. It covers your nose and your mouth at the same time. And you don't have to race to find where's the hand sanitizer, okay? Your sleeve needs to be washed at some point, but at least you've blocked off that sneeze.
That had died because she said that the $119 cost for Tamiflu was too much. So I think that, if there's medicine out there, I believe in both organic medicine and modern day medicine. So really whatever works, works. And The symptoms of flu is, it could be, there's fever, chills, muscle aches, cough, congestion, runny nose, headaches, and fatigue. Some pain areas in the muscles, maybe cough, can be dry or with phlegm. Whole body, there could be chills, dehydration, fatigue, fever, flushing, loss of appetite, body ache or sweating. Nasal, there could be congestion, a runny nose, or sneezing. Also, chest discomfort, head congestion, headache, nausea, shortness of breath, sore throat, or swollen lymph nodes. Now, flu is virus, right? So you can't take any antibiotics for it. That only takes care of bacteria. The symptoms for pneumonia.
Okay? Most nurses in the emergency room also are only getting 5 seconds to eat. 12-hour shifts, mind you, on our feet. My toes are swollen, but on our feet, getting yelled at. And I want you to know, I get yelled at and cussed at. I'm a good, friendly person. I get cussed at, y'all. Okay? But I've been getting cussed at recently because people are so mad about their weight. Well, there's 1 to 2 doctors at night. No, there's 1 doctor, excuse me. Let me rewind that. 1 doctor, and there's 20 patients in the waiting room, 16 patients in the back, somebody coming in on an ambulance, and we do this based on triage. If you've been waiting for 4 hours and you're just ready to get out of here, but all of a sudden there's somebody coming in who's bleeding to death, or they're not breathing, you're going to have to wait a little longer.
Pneumonia, this is, if you have the flu and you're like, oh my God, am I about to die? I mean, you should be worried about it. The way that this is very generic, but the flu weakens your immune system. It inflames stuff. So all these things are getting swollen to sort of fight the thing off. But in your lungs, if it gets swollen too much, the oxygen can't get through, and then, pneumonia will eventually kill you. So the flu doesn't kill you. It's the pneumonia that kills. So anyways, pneumonia, the symptoms include a cough with phlegm or pus, fever, chills, difficulty breathing. There could be a sharp pain in the chest. The whole body is, you got fever, chills, dehydration, fatigue, loss of appetite, malaise, clammy skin or sweating. Respiratory, you can have fast breathing, shallow breathing, shortness of breath, or wheezing. Also is common coughing or a fast heart rate. So a lot of them are the same, but a lot of, there's a lot of different ones too. All about the lungs and breathing and shortness of breath.
Okay? If you're here with an ingrown toenail, or I just got these headaches, you're not going to die. We check you out when you come in the door. Okay? We can tell based on an eyeball assessment, you ain't dying currently. You're going to have to wait a little bit longer. Okay? This is a 6-minute video. I'm so sorry it's so long, but I have a lot of stress. Please thank an ER nurse and every nurse and doctor that's taking care of sick people right now. We're putting ourselves into the thick of some nasty germs to help. We don't get lunch breaks. We're exhausted. We're getting yelled at, but we're still coming in and doing it every time. Thank you, guys. Hope you stay safe and healthy.